I always believed in the power of love, but that was before I met him. His name was Daniel, and our love story began in the small, picturesque town of Willowbrook. We were inseparable from the moment we met. We spent our days exploring the woods, our nights stargazing, and our hearts completely entwined. One fateful night, under a full moon, Daniel proposed to me in the same woods where we first met. I said yes, tears of joy streaming down my face. But little did I know that this beautiful moment would mark the beginning of a nightmare. As the wedding plans unfolded, Daniel grew distant. He'd often vanish for hours, returning with an eerie silence about his whereabouts. When I pressed him for answers, he'd brush it off as work-related stress. But I could sense something was terribly wrong. One evening, as I was going through some old books in our attic, I stumbled upon a dusty, leather-bound journal. The journal belonged to a woman named Amelia who had lived in Willowbrook decades ago. Her words were filled with sorrow and despair, chronicling her love for a man named Samuel. It struck me that the man she loved bore a striking resemblance to my Daniel. The more I read, the more Amelia's story mirrored my own. She had been engaged to Samuel, but their love had been overshadowed by a dark secret. Samuel had made a pact with a malevolent spirit to save his family from financial ruin. In exchange, the spirit demanded a sacrifice, the life of his beloved, Amelia. As I read on, I couldn't help but feel a growing dread. Amelia's journal mentioned a forbidden ritual that could break the spirit's curse. Desperate, I contacted a local historian who confirmed the existence of the spirit. Together, we uncovered the details of the ritual and decided to perform it. The night of the ritual was filled with tension and fear. I watched as the historian chanted the incantations, and I held on to hope that this would save Daniel and me from the curse. But as the ritual reached its climax, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles. In the darkness, I heard a sinister whisper, "You cannot break the pact." Terrified, I rushed back to our home, only to find Daniel missing. I searched desperately, calling out his name, but he was nowhere to be found. My heart pounded with fear, and I returned to Amelia's journal, hoping for answers. Amelia's entries grew increasingly desperate as she realized that the ritual had failed for her as well. The spirit had taken Samuel, leaving her alone and broken. The journal's final pages contained a warning: the spirit will never release its grip on those it claims. It will torment you until the end of days. Haunted by this revelation, I began to see and hear things that defied explanation. Ghostly apparitions of Amelia and Samuel appeared before me, their eyes filled with anguish. They whispered haunting verses, recounting their tragic love story and foretelling our doom. Days turned to weeks, and I descended into madness. I could no longer distinguish between reality and the spectral visions that plagued me. The spirit had trapped Daniel and me in a nightmarish cycle of love and betrayal, just as it had with Amelia and Samuel. My world crumbled around me, and I became a ghostly figure myself, forever trapped in the twisted love story that had ensnared us all. The spirit's malevolent laughter echoed through the empty halls of our home as we remained prisoners of a curse that knew no end. And so, I share this tale as a warning to all who dare to meddle with forces beyond their understanding. Love can be a powerful force, but sometimes, it's not enough to break the bonds of a vengeful spirit that thrives on the pain of betrayed love. In the years that followed, Willowbrook became a town shrouded in mystery and fear. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the cursed love stories that seemed to repeat themselves, generation after generation. The legend of Amelia and Samuel, along with my own tragic tale, became a cautionary tale, a dark fable shared on moonless nights when the wind howled through the trees. I couldn't leave Willowbrook, for the curse bound me to the town, to the very land where I had once been so blissfully in love with Daniel. Each night, I wandered the woods, searching for any trace of him, my heart heavy with regret for ever attempting to break the spirit's curse. The spectral apparitions of Amelia and Samuel continued to torment me, their voices filled with sorrow and anger. They whispered that my only chance of redemption lay in finding the one thing the spirit desired most, an innocent soul to replace the one it had lost. But this dark revelation filled me with dread. I could never willingly condemn another to the fate I now endured. As time passed, the weight of my guilt and despair grew unbearable. I longed for release, for an end to the eternal torment. In the depths of my solitude, a plan began to form, a desperate, risky plan to confront the malevolent spirit and free not only myself but also the souls of Amelia and Samuel. Armed with knowledge from Amelia's journal, I embarked on a journey deep into the heart of the forest, to the very spot where the spirit had made its cursed pact with Samuel. Armed with candles, incantations, and the desperate hope that love could conquer even the darkest of forces, I called upon the spirit to face me. The night was cold and still as the spirit manifested before me, its presence a swirling vortex of darkness. Its voice was a chilling whisper, echoing through the trees as it demanded to know my purpose. With trembling determination, I recounted our tragic love stories, the pain, the betrayal, the endless torment. I pleaded for mercy, for an end to the curse that had ensnared us all. In that moment, I saw a flicker of something in the spirit's shadowy form, regret, perhaps, or a trace of its long-forgotten humanity. I seized the opportunity, offering my own soul in exchange for the release of Daniel, Amelia, and Samuel. The spirit hesitated, its dark form wavered, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, I thought it might accept my sacrifice. But then, with a guttural scream, it rejected my offer, cursing me further, and disappeared into the night. I returned to our home, defeated and broken, my heart heavy with sorrow. The apparitions of Amelia and Samuel continued to haunt me, their voices now tinged with a bitter resignation. We were all prisoners of a curse that seemed impossible to break. But in the depths of my despair, I realized that the true curse was not the malevolent spirit itself but the cycle of pain and betrayal that had bound us for so long. Love, in its purest form, had been the spark that had ignited our tragedy, but perhaps it could also be the key to our salvation. And so, I vowed to continue my search for a way to break the curse, to find a way to free us from the torment that had consumed our lives. For in the end, it was love that had brought us together, and it would be love that would ultimately set us free.